Hello students, welcome back. In today's video, we are still dealing with module 2. We are almost coming towards the end of module 2, where we were dealing with the selection process. Now, in my previous video, we had seen in detail what are the selection techniques. See, when I'm speaking about selection techniques, I can either speak about the techniques when it comes to conducting the tests, or when it comes, or it can also refer to the interviewing techniques. Now, when I'm talking about the techniques, so yeah, in today's video, we will primarily be focusing on the types of interview techniques. So in selection techniques, we have the types of interviews. So there are totally, you have 12. Okay, so totally you have 12 types of interviews for your syllabus. So these are the types of interviews. You have unstructured, structured, situational, behavioral, job-related interview, stress interview, puzzle questions, individual or one-on-one interview, sequential interview, which can again be categorized into structured versus unstructured. Then you have a panel interview, mass interview, and telephonic interviews. So let's have a look at the first point here. What do we understand by the term unstructured interview? So an unstructured interview is where the interviewer, the person who's taking the interview, does not follow any specific format as such while conducting the interview. They pose those questions, whatever comes to their mind at that moment. And normally their questions will be follow-up questions. That is, their questions will be based on what the candidate has previously answered for the previous question. So this is the way in which unstructured interview normally is designed. And so it's a little more than a general conversation. It's quite informal, and it's a little more than a general conversation. One advantage of an unstructured interview is that it tends to put the candidate at ease, because it's a little more kind of a friendly environment which is created over here, and it's not very formal. And where unstructured interviews are normally used are, they are normally used for those positions for which the company is not getting many candidates. So the company's options relating to the candidates is quite less. And so yes, so when there is not much of competition relating to the selection of candidates, many times unstructured interview tends to be conducted. And sometimes it's also conducted where the interviewer already knows about the candidate somehow. Maybe it might have been because of a close relationship with the candidate, or some kind of past working experience with that candidate. So they kind of know the candidate. So because of which they do not follow a very formal method, a very structured method they do not follow over here. So maybe the purpose of an unstructured interview is where you may just want to test the candidate on their communication skills, or you may just want to test the candidate on their level of confidence. So this is the way in which an unstructured interview works. So the main point what we need to note here relating to an unstructured interview is that there is no specific formal or a standard way in which the interview has to be conducted. As and when questions just pop up in the interviewer's mind, the questions can just be put in front of the candidate. So it's more or less like a general conversation. Moving on to the second point over here, you have something known as a structured interview. So a structured interview is something where there is a specific format which is laid out. In a handout, probably a format will be given to the interviewer that, okay, this is what question you have to ask. After asking this question, next the other question has to be asked. Only after asking the other question, you need to ask the third question. So a specific format will be laid out. Normally, how the format will go is, initially, questions will be related to how the candidate may be useful for the company, or how the candidate has got to know about the job. Once this set of questions are covered, the next set of questions will be related to what was his experience in his previous jobs. The next question will be related to his educational qualifications. Then the next set of questions might be related to their passions or their hobbies or their achievements or anything like that. And the next set of questions will be related to probably their negotiating their salary package, or finding out whether they will be required to avail the office transport, or whether do they have their own vehicles for traveling. Is the distance between the office and their residence, is it going to be feasible for them to work? So this is how the structure normally comes up for a structured interview. So from what we have seen in this structure, once the job related questions are asked, next we have to compulsorily find out in the previous experiences how the candidate used to do his work. Compulsorily after that, we have to ask relating to his educational qualifications. So it needs to follow that sequence. After asking job related questions in the beginning, the next question cannot be what salary do you expect or what timings will be feasible for you, because those things comes towards the end. After the first question, whatever second question is set in that format, only that should be asked. After the first question, we cannot jump to the last question and come back to the second question, then jump to some other question which is somewhere in the middle, and then come back to the third or fourth. That should not be done in case of a structured interview. So yes, other aspects related to a structured interview is we have the advantages as well as the disadvantages associated with a structured interview. Now, what advantages are there related to a structured interview is it facilitates better candidate comparison. So it's for all the candidates who will be attending the interviews. For all the candidates, it's more or less the same set of questions which will be asked in the interview. And in the same format also, it might be asked in the interview. And normally what also happens in a structured interview is, once the question is asked, below that, what possible acceptable answer is going to be, you should look out for. That will also, a key will be given to all the questions. I'll give you one example over here. Now, supposing you're asking the candidate, how did you get to know about this job? Below that, one key will be given. That key will state, try to find out how self-reliant the candidate is. Try to find out what is the extent to which he doesn't depend upon others, based on whatever answer he gives for that question. So this is the key. So sometimes a key will be given, the answer key, what you should expect from the candidate for every question, that might be given. Sometimes that might not be given. If that is not given, the interviewer has to use their own judgment in evaluating the candidate. And another important characteristic related to the structured interview is, because it is set in a prescribed format, and because the answer key is also given to each of the questions, it will mostly be given to each of the questions. What is the criteria based on which you have to evaluate the candidate? It becomes easy for even an inexperienced interviewer to conduct a structured interview. And obviously, it reduces bias. The reason is, for all the candidates, it's the same set of questions which are being asked. So for each question, an evaluation criteria will be given, based on which for each question, candidate number 1 will be given marks for each of the question. Then candidate number 2 comes in. They will be given marks for each of the question. So because of this evaluation criteria which is given, and because of the same question being asked for all the candidates, it's easier to compare one candidate with the other candidate, and thereby the level of bias gets reduced. The level of partiality, all those things can get reduced. See, in an unstructured interview, what we saw previously, what problem can come up over here is, supposing candidate number 1 has come. That candidate has a lot of content. But since it's not the questions, what is asked for candidate number one, interviewer might not have asked sufficient technical questions. So they might have just seen basic things like how they are communicating, confidence level and all. Maybe communication might have been a little poor for candidate one, but in case of candidate two, their communication is excellent. Their convincing capabilities are excellent, but their knowledge level is quite limited. But our job requires you to have good technical skills. So in this way, there can be errors which can occur if you're conducting things by way of an unstructured interview. So this problem can be avoided if you're using the second format, the structured interview, which has a specific format for everything. So normally how one example of a structured interview I can just share with you. So question number one will be, how did you find out about this job? Question number two will be, what information do you know about the company? Question number three will be, why do you want this job? Question number four can be, what contribution will you do towards this company? So it should follow that sequence. The same sequence will be used even for candidate number two, candidate number three, candidate number four, etc. And as I had already told you in the beginning, you cannot interchange the sequence. It has to follow the same performer, whatever has been given to us in the sequence or in the format. But there are some disadvantages with a structured interview. There is no opportunity for pursuing points of interest as they develop. So I'll give you one example over here. What can possibly happen? See, you are asking one candidate. Now that candidate replies, yes. So you're asking about educational qualification. Under educational qualification, you're asking the question, so where have you completed your degree? What specializations have you taken in that in your degree? What has been the year of completion? All these questions you might ask. As soon as you're asking about the specialization or the year of completion, according to that format which is given to you, immediately next you are supposed to ask, what salary package are they expecting? So this is the way in which the format is given. So if it is structured, you just have to keep evaluating based on only what questions they're asking, and you should not divert from the interview. But in an unstructured interview, that possibility of diversion is there. See, I'll give you one instance here. See, supposing a candidate says that I have completed my engineering at NIT, okay, or IIT Kharagpur. Supposing they mention this. And they mentioned the batch also, that they have completed their engineering, computer science engineering at IIT Kharagpur in the year 2010. Supposing they mention like this. Incidentally, you also have another candidate in your office who is working, who also has mentioned in their resume and has cleared the background referrals and all, that they were also belonging to 2010 batch from IIT Kharagpur in computer science department, with so and so, whatever specializations also which might be there. So if they mention it, it can give you a ground for you to cross check. So the moment this candidate says that I have completed my engineering, computer science engineering at IIT Kharagpur in 2010, and I belong to the 2010 batch, immediately you can ask, oh, is that so? So you must be knowing Mr. XYZ, who's also working in this company. So, and based on that, you can just elicit a few responses from this candidate. So what do you think about him? How was he as a person during the college days? So with relating to present employees, you may be able to elicit some information in an informal way from that candidate during the interview process. This is possible in an unstructured interview, but it is not possible in a structured interview. So that is what the con is talking about. You don't have opportunity for pursuing a point of interest. Something interesting comes up during the interview process. You will not be able to probe into that because immediately you have to move to the next question. This also could be because of shortage of time, and the number of candidates that you have to interview may be many. So in case you start indulging in small talk over here, which may or may not be beneficial for the company, you tend to waste time, and misjudgments can also creep in. in a conversational way, you may start getting a positive impression towards the candidate because that candidate may be very friendly towards you. So you might kind of just start liking that candidate. So you may want to choose them. But there are other candidates waiting outside who has not struck a chord with us, but who are even more skillful and who may be even more capable than this candidate whom you're interviewing. So there can be errors in selection that can creep in case of an unstructured interview. But that possibility will not be, that problems will not creep up in structured. But yes, here and there you might miss out on some important information because you do not have an opportunity for pursuing points of interest as they develop. Then another interesting interviewing technique, you have something known as a situational interview. So in a situational interview, you ask a candidate, you put a situation in front of a candidate and you ask that candidate, what would you have done if you were in such a situation? So for example, you can ask a candidate, in case you can ask a person who's trying to apply for a supervisory position in a company. So you can ask that candidate, in case one of your employees, in case one of your juniors comes to work late continuously 3 days in a row, what would you do? So if this was the situation, if you're put in a situation where this might happen, what will you do? This is how situational interview comes up. And for that, again, an answer key might be given. That answer key may be evaluate the candidate on whether he's giving these three options. One is he will give a very firm warning to the candidate and send them. Second thing, he may suspend the candidate altogether for 1 week. Third thing, he may cut half day salary for that candidate. Every time he is absenting himself 3 days in a week, half day or 1 day salary, he will arrange for it to get cut. So among these three options, you see what your candidate is telling, and based on that, you evaluate the candidate. So this is the way in which a situational interview comes up. Another way in which a situational interview can shape up is, let's take for example, we are interviewing a candidate for a receptionist or a hotel manager. Okay, so it's a hotel, the company is a hotel. It's interviewing candidates for the position of a receptionist or maybe for the hotel manager position. So again, they may put forward a situation. If you come across a situation during your course of work, if you come across a situation where there is a guest who is very pushy, who has just checked into the who has just come into the hotel, he's extremely pushy and he's saying that he has to be checked in immediately. And at the same time, you're attending to another guest who has to check out of the hotel and who has to reach the airport within the next 20 minutes. And you're processing that other guest who's checking out, you're processing that guest's details. So if you are in such a position, so you're there, you're handling two guests. One is extremely pushy and is saying immediately they have to get checked in. There is another guest who has to be checked out as early as possible, because if you are not quick enough, that person is going to miss his flight. He has to be in the airport in 20 minutes. Under such a situation, if you were put under such a situation, what is it that you will do? So such queries, when they come up, we are again speaking about situational interview over here. Moving on to the fourth point, we have something known as behavioral interview. If situational interview is speaking to you about what would you do if so-and-so incident happened, behavioral interview is trying to evaluate the candidate on the basis of the following question. Can you think of a time when so-and-so situation happened? What did you do? So the interviewer takes the candidate to the past and is telling the candidate, in the past, when you faced such a situation, at that time, what did you do? How did you handle a situation? So you're again interviewing someone for a customer relationship officer. So you're asking that candidate, in the past, when you were dealing with a very tough person, or when you were dealing with a very irritated person, how did you handle that person and how did you turn the situation around? How did you convince that irritated person and how did you calm that irritated person down? So they are taking you to an incident in the past and asking you to tell in the past when something happened, how did you handle that in the past? So behavioral interview speaks about a real life situation which the candidate might have faced in the past and how did they handle that situation. On the other hand, a situational interview speaks about a hypothetical situation which might come up in the future. If at all you come up that situation, how will you handle it? So there are many companies which have switched from situational interview to behavioral interview techniques because of several reasons. See, there is one call center which was seeing many of its employees quitting. In bunches, they used to quit and leave. So this call center was trying to find out why is it that these candidates are quitting and leaving in bunches. They understood that these candidates were getting irritated with customers who were angry, and they were feeling bad about angry customers who used to talk very rudely. These angry customers might have even used bad language against these people, these call center operators. So this used to irritate them. So because they did not want to take nonsense from some other person over the telephone from these customers, from these angry or irritated customers, they thought, let me as well quit this job and let me search for some other job which is much more respectful for me. Now, we should understand that such candidates during their interview, in order to get a job, when a situation was given to them, in future, in case you find an angry candidate, angry customer, how will you deal with that angry customer? So such candidates during their interview, they said that yes, we will keep very calm. We will manage these customers well. We will convince these customers and make them happy. All those answers they gave. But when the actual problem came in front of them, they were getting irritated. This is where the interview panel understood that, okay, situational interview is not working because in order to get a job, candidates can always overstate the ways in which sensible ways in which they will handle a situation. So they will overstate their capabilities when actually it is not so. So on the other hand, if you go for a behavioral interview, you're actually taking the candidate back to a situation which has really happened. And it is very difficult to tell lies relating to a situation which has really happened in the past. It's very difficult to fabricate information based on something which has really happened in the past. And not only that, see, interviewers are also very clever. What they will do is, they will ask you a question, something related to the past. Then they will ask another question. Then finally, they will twist and turn things and ask the same question, what they asked previously, in a twisted manner, in a slightly different manner. So there are chances where candidates will be inconsistent in their answers. So you cannot actually fake what you had done in the past in terms of a behavioral interview. And that one more thing can happen. You will ask a candidate a question. Then after several questions, you tend to ask the candidate again the same kind of a question what you asked previously. The candidate might have forgotten what lies they said previously. If they are telling the truth, you will not forget your truth. But if you have told a lie, you may forget that lie and you will tell another lie. So they say, right? One lie leads to another 1,000 lies. In order to cover up one lie, you may have to tell 1,000 lies. So this is exactly the same case. What can happen with a behavioral interview? So the moment you feel that 2 or 3 answers related to the same question, related to the same past event, the candidate is giving different answers, you can understand this candidate is faking. So this is one way in which you can evaluate how a candidate is performing in your interview. And yes, of course, whether it is more than situational, it's actually behavioral interviews, which kind of tenses, it gives a little more tension for the candidate. Next, moving on to job-related interview, the second last point given here. Job-related interview refers to, it's basically a technical round. So you're questioning the candidate on their various skills, on various technical terms, on various technical domains. So all those aspects which is related to the job that the candidate is applying for, or related to all that, questions will be asked. And job related interview can also ask again your past behavior related to the technical aspects of the job. So if you're testing, if you're interviewing a candidate who's applying for testing engineer's position, so they will ask, what do you mean by bugs? How is it that you will, what is the process in which you do this testing of so and so software? So what you're doing is you're also testing the candidate on some technical terms related to the job, and you're also asking the candidate in the past, how is it that they carried out the process of testing, the software testing I'm telling about. So this is how job related interview goes. And yes, of course, there are other examples also. You can also take one more example where the candidate, you can ask the candidate in their degree, what specialization is. So supposing you're recruiting somebody for a finance position, who has to go through the financials of the company, who may have to file the income tax returns of the company, and who has to give financial advice to the company on how to manage their cash. So such a person you're trying to interview, you will definitely ask, what specialization did you take up in your degree? What are the subjects that you had studied? So that you can somehow try to make sure that you can match that, yes, this candidate will be, has sufficient knowledge to carry out the work over here. Then moving on to stress interview. So stress interview is a case where the interviewer is purposely creating an uncomfortable environment for the candidate and is trying to see how the candidate is operating under stress. When I'm speaking about uncomfortable environment, I do not mean to say that their chair where they are sitting is not comfortable or the room is not air conditioned. I'm not telling about that. The environment in which they are in, that is, I'm speaking about the see, for example, the interviewer might be kind of rude to the candidate, or the interviewer might just be discounting whatever the candidate is saying that, okay, whatever you're saying is rubbish. So this is the way the interviewer creates a kind of a friction between themselves and the candidate and tries to see how the candidate is reacting to that position. Okay. So normally stress interviews will be conducted for those jobs where the employee goes through high levels of stress. Again, when I'm speaking about customer relationship officer's position, or a customer relationship manager's position, they normally undergo a lot of stress. Why they are undergoing a lot of stress is because, yes, their position is very important to maintain the customers. If customers are angry or customers are unhappy, their bosses will fire them, because their main job itself is client relationship or customer relationship. When customer is not happy or when the customer is angry, they will leave the company. So your situation should be to somehow convince the customers and make sure that they are staying with the company. And not only that, customers will often be very rude. They may use bad words also. So in such situations, you definitely need a person who is quite thick-skinned. In case you're too sensitive, you will not be able to withstand the way in which this customer is behaving with you. If they are behaving rudely, you as an employee might also be very rude to that customer. And you will ultimately be ending up losing a customer for the company or a client for the company, which we do not want. So thereby, only for those jobs which genuinely requires thick skin, only for those jobs where you should not be sensitive at all, for those jobs, stress interviews will normally be conducted. So what is the process in which the stress interview is conducted is, normally the interviewer will try to find out some weak areas or weak positions. Once they find out a weakness in the candidate's resume, They will catch hold of that weakness and start probing into it further and purposely provoke the candidate. For example, supposing in their biodata, in the candidate's resume, it is mentioned that the candidate has changed 4 jobs in a span of 2 years. So the interview will make the following statement. The interviewer will say, okay, so your resume shows that you have changed 4 jobs in 2 years. So this shows that you are quite irresponsible and immature. What do you think? This is the way in which the interviewer will ask. For such a question posed by the interviewer, if the candidate replies in a calm and composed manner and in a very mature way, they justify that this is the reason why I had to quit the past. This is the reason why within the past 2 years I had to quit 4 jobs, and the justification is very sensible enough. The interviewer will next go on to another weakness and try to probe into that weakness. So, for example, they will ask the candidate, "What do you mean by so and so?" So, supposing the candidate does not know the answer for that question, some technical question he is asking. Now, supposing the candidate, okay, like supposing it's an HR interview. It's an interview where you have to recruit. You have to appoint recruiters. So you're asking the candidate, what do you mean by sourcing? The candidate gives an answer. For that, the interviewer says, that's not the meaning of sourcing. How can you say that you know sourcing? How can you say that you have even studied this subject? Like that, they will rudely behave. So how the candidate should not just cringe and just be quiet also in such a case. They should, in a very mature manner, try to convince that, no, this is what it is, and be very confident that, yes, this is what it is, and convince the interviewer in that way. So such kind of candidates will normally qualify the stress interview round and can be understood as people who are capable of handling a stressful position which can come up in the job. But again, a very big caution has to be exercised when it comes to administering stress interviews. Since it is a case where you're purposely creating an uncomfortable environment, you should engage only experienced interviewers, sensible interviewers to conduct a stress interview, because only they will be able to keep the situation under control. See, stress interview sometimes may even happen such that the candidate may get angry and there might be a very bad outburst out of anger or disbelief. In a very angry way, they will react. And our purpose here is not to hurt the other person. Our purpose over here is just to find out what is the level of sensitivity of that other person. That is our intention. Now, obviously, in case we are speaking about an inexperienced person, if the candidate has an angry outburst like this, the inexperienced interviewer might also hurl abuses or might also abuse the candidate or something like this. This can ultimately lead to a legal action against the company and the interview process. So you should be very careful when the interviewer is conducting a stress interview. You should make sure that you do not hurt anybody's ego or pass personal rude comments or something like that. Everything should be totally professional. In case the interviewer feels that something is going out of hand because the candidate is having a very bad, very severe, angry or disbelief-filled outburst, they should make arrangements to bring the situation under control. An inexperienced interviewer will not be able to bring the situation under control. It might eventually result into a lawsuit or a legal action against the company and its interviewing process. So we should be very careful when stress interviews are being administered. Then the next thing, you have something known as puzzle questions. So what we understand by puzzle questions are, I'll give you an example here. We are trying to evaluate the candidate, their presence of mind under high pressure situations. So I can just give you one example here. So you're trying to evaluate the level of wittiness, evaluate the level of presence of mind of the candidate, and again evaluate a certain amount of their creativity and their intelligence levels. So for example, here is a puzzle question which has been asked at Microsoft. So Mike and Todd have $21 between them. Mike has 20 more than Todd. How much does Mike have and how much does Todd have? So normally people, what they might do is they may start getting into calculations here the moment such a question is asked. So there are many options that can be given for this. You can say, yes, Mike has $20 and Todd has 21. Another person may start getting into deep calculations and may start saying that, okay, one person is having, Mike is having 11, the other person is having 10. So yes, so in this way, there are a lot of things that can actually get into. So they will start doing all these kind of calculations. However, the person, a candidate who's answering within a fraction of a second for this, will be the winner for this particular round. So a candidate can always give an answer. Mike has $20 and Todd has $1. Or a candidate can give another more creative answer. Mike has $20.5 and Todd has $0.5. So this involves creativity and quickness in thinking. So such candidates will be preferred for moving on to the next round, or maybe preferred for the job as well. So this is one example. There is another example also of another company, Google, which has been documented to ask questions like, in a school bus, how many golf balls can fit into a school bus? So again, the answer what the candidate is giving lies in their creativity. And Google is a company which mainly rests on creativity and innovation. They take in the best of talent. So whichever candidates they are taking, they need to evaluate them not only on the basis of their IQ and their knowledge, how creative they are, and how much presence of mind and how much quick thinking they are doing. All these aspects also has to be evaluated. So this is how puzzle questions normally surface up. Then you have individual or one-on-one interview. So in this case, you have one candidate, one interviewer. So it is an oral response that the candidate gives to the oral inquiry what the interviewer is asking. A simple one-on-one interview this is. Moving on to the next point here, sequential interview. What we understand by sequential interview here, I've given you the keywords beside this point. You have many interviewers, but they are interviewing separately, one after the other. See, for example, there are interviewers A, B, C, and D. I'm speaking about candidate 1. Candidate 1 first attends an interview with interviewer A. He completes the interview with interviewer A, then moves on to interviewer B. Completes the round with interviewer B, moves on to interviewer C. So this is a case where separately the candidate has to answer many interviewers, but separately. So many times it may so happen that the candidate might often touch the same ground whenever they are answering these interviewers. Normally, the rounds may be different. See, for example, an example of a sequential interview, I will tell you. Normally, what happens is the candidate will be having a preliminary interview with the recruiter. Whenever the recruiter calls up the candidate over phone, the recruiter is just doing some amount of background check, confirming whether some skills are there with the candidate so that they can refer them to the interview panel and schedule the interview. All these things the recruiter does. So this is one part of the sequence. Then the next round will be the technical round. Then after that will be the managerial round. After that will be the HR round. So a sequence of interviewers the candidate is passing through. And I also told you one thing. What can happen is the same topics may be touched upon by the different interviewers in the sequence. See, for example, the recruiter will also ask, what is your qualification? What is your experience? How many years have you worked? Have you had any break? All these things they will ask. The same ground foundation questions will be asked in the technical, might be asked in the technical round also. Same foundation questions might also be asked in the managerial round and in the HR round. So there are chances of some repetition that can occur here. Again, sequential interview can either be structured or unstructured. Then moving on to the next type of an interview, you have a panel interview. Panel interview is at one time, there are many interviewers, one candidate. So the interviewers will normally be seated in a kind of a semicircle position, or they may be seated across a round table. The candidate occupies one end of the table. The interviewers are sitting across the round table, and they will keep throwing questions to the candidate from different directions. This tends to put some candidates under stress. Okay, so because of this, many of them may not perform that well in this panel interview. So a candidate has to exude a lot of confidence whenever they are attending to a panel interview. And one advantage of a panel interview is follow-on questions can happen. See, they have answered something to one of the interviewer. Based on what the candidate has answered, the second question can be asked. Whereas in a sequential interview, you cannot base your questions based on what the previous interviewer has asked. Why? Because one interviewer will not know what the other interviewer has asked, because they are happening at separate different timings in different locations. But in a panel interview, it's not like that. All the interviewers are collected together in the same location at the same time. All of them are throwing questions from different directions, for which the candidate has to give a substantial reply. Next, you have mass interview. Mass interview is, you have many candidates who are attending the interview at one time. So what happens is, the interviewer, it may be one or a few people, will pose a question to that mass of candidates who are sitting there. A question can be any kind of a problem or anything. Which candidate among those mass of candidates is coming up with an appropriate solution? Based on that, a judgment regarding the candidate's ability can be made. Then you have telephonic interviews again. Telephonic interviews, telephonic rounds can be from the basic round where the recruiter is calling the candidate, or it can even be slightly advanced rounds where it can be technical. Advantage of telephonic interviews is it reduces bias, and you judge the person more based on his intelligence and on their capabilities. Many times, judgments tend to creep in the interviewer. See, supposing there is a candidate who's walking in, that candidate is extremely beautiful or attractive, or the candidate is carrying themselves excellently. So they look very intelligent. They may not be intelligent, but they look very intelligent. So the interviewer, such kind of bias can creep in, and the interviewer might feel that, okay, this candidate might be good for the job. They may not probe too much into the technical aspects. Whereas in a telephonic interview, you do not know how the person is appearing on the other side. So obviously, you will be more you'll be more objective in the way of questions. You will not be knowing about or even caring about how the candidate might be looking, how have they dressed up, what is the way in which they're carrying themselves. All those things you will not look. You will judge them specifically on their level of expertise, on their level of intelligence, and on their level of capabilities. And one more advantage is whether it is the interviewer or the interviewee or the candidate need not focus on things like what kind of clothes are they wearing, or have they even have they put up appropriate amount of makeup, or have they even washed their faces. All these things need not count. So all the formalities like a handshake and all those things are just not required. You can just focus on your subject, and you can focus more on performing the interview well, subjective wise, and your capability wise. So these are some of the aspects of interviews and selection techniques in general. So with this, I shall be concluding my module 2. We shall be moving on to module 3 from our next video. Thank you.